Welcome to the Authorpreneur Podcast. I'm so excited for today's guest, Dana Rivera. She is a stroke survivor, support group facilitator, and awareness advocate, to say the least. And not too long ago, she just released her newest book. So proud of her, best-selling author, #1 in so many categories, Healing in Heels, a stroke survivor's journey to high heels. And what an inspirational journey and story. So I'm so glad to have you here with us today, Dana. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Kathy. I so appreciate this opportunity to share some information on how I got to writing my book and how it came to full fruition. And I'm just super excited that I got to do it.
Oh, and I was so excited for you when everything kind of came together. And it's like, yes, like when it works, it works. And it just all came together and it was beautiful, beautiful. So tell us a bit about the book, how it came to be. For those who are listening for the first time and meeting you for the first time, tell us a bit about your story and this book.
Well, the book is basically about the traumatic experience and event that I had when I was 44 years old, a massive stroke. And I was basically living just my life. And then out of nowhere came this major earthquake that shattered that life. And what that was a stroke. And it was definitely traumatic in the sense of I had left side paralysis. And at that time, there was an uncertainty of what my future was holding for me. And so, with a lot of determination and motivation, I reached really deep down inside my body and used my resilience to bring out all the things that helped me get to a full recovery. And
Mhm.
oh, and after having and suffering that major event, it took about a full year before I felt like myself again, but a new version of that self.
Mhm.
And it led me to carving out a new purpose in my life, which was facilitating stroke support groups. And I started out, if I could help just one person, then that's all I cared about. And it's gone on for 14 years now of facilitating stroke support groups, being a part of the American Heart Association, doing one on one support. And it's been so rewarding. And it's been my act of service for regaining a full recovery. And so along the way, in those 14 years, so many people have said to me, "Oh, I should write a book." And I just felt like, how can I write a book? And it just never felt like the right timing. So in the last 2 years, coming upon my 15th year of survivorship, a lot more signs were coming together, and a lot more of the community was sharing, I should write that book. And so I said to myself, if I found the right person to help me and in guiding me to make that come to fruition, then it's meant to be. And with a lot of soul searching and searching out there, I found Kathy, you, and you were able to make that wish come true. And I'm so grateful for you, because there's nothing better than feeling like it's all my story can help somebody that is struggling so much and it's feeling so hopeless at this moment in time of their recovery.
Mhm. I love that. And I've actually met some other survivors who were inspired by you writing your book. And they're talking about writing their books. And that's amazing. So you really are like, you're inspiring people every day. Your story is inspiring, but then actually writing the book and getting it published after having had a stroke and made recovery. Like, I don't know that our listeners know how massive that is after surviving a stroke to then be able to write a book and share your story. Like, that's phenomenal. And you're inspiring people. And it's so great to watch that happen.
One thing that is really, really difficult, I think, for a lot of people who go through traumatic events is being transparent. And you're opening yourself to vulnerability, obviously, when you're writing your whole story out on paper. And a lot of people come back with a lot of questions that just sometimes don't hit right. And it's being unaware, uneducated about the stroke in itself and the naiveness of what it really robs you of. It robs you of so much. And so to regain confidence in yourself and your body again, it's a journey. And I thought that that was important to write in the book as well.
Yeah, yeah, and you did beautifully. And on that note, like informationally, I have to say that before I started working with certain people that have had closed head injuries of various different kinds, I didn't realize, like, young people, like, you're way too young to have a stroke. Like, you were a busy mom doing, hockey practice and running here and there and doing all mom stuff, right? Like, uh, you're too young for a stroke. That's what most of us would just think is like, no way, it's not going to happen to me. It shouldn't have happened to her. Like, I think people don't realize how common stroke and other types of head injuries are. And like you said, what it robs you of. So can you share with us a bit about, like, what we should be aware of, and, like, for those who know somebody who's in recovery, like, what that experience might be for them?
Well, again, being 44 at that time of my life, being a gym rat, a health nut, nutritionally well balanced, that would be the last thing that I thought would happen to me.
Right.
So I never in my bandwidth thought to educate myself on stroke, because why would I? I knew one person in my life that had a stroke when he was 40 years old. It was my father's friend. And back in the day, there wasn't much uh, therapies and clinical trials and methods to make full recovery. So he was my visual, and that scared me quite a bit. So I was lucky enough to be able to be transferred to a acute unit at UCLA after having my stroke. And I met many, many amazing therapists and survivors that would come back to the unit and share how they got through some of the hard, dark times of their recovery. And that lended itself to me as hope. And I think you need hope in order to get through something that is so traumatic, such as a head injury, a physical injury, and you need those guides. And I call them angels. And I was lucky enough to meet a few. And what I will say was that you just have to have faith that you're going to get better. And with stroke, most of the time it's one of those things where you do get better. Sometimes you do have a few setbacks, but for the most part you are making progress as you go day to day, as long as you do all the therapies and outside things to help you recover. And one other component in stroke recovery that kind of gets pushed aside is the emotional support. It's you're so driven physically to get back to who you were, you forget to put the emotional component in and thread that into your recovery. So sometimes you're hit 2 years later where you've worked so hard at your physical recovery. Now you're trying to unpack the emotional part of it. So it's an ongoing recovery and it has a lot of tentacles to it. So that's one of the reasons also why I wrote the book was it's not just about the event, it's about how the event can happen. Mine was a genetic disposition I had no idea about, but there's risk factors out there that we don't hear a lot about, like obesity, cholesterol, high stress, alcoholism, smoking, and I can go on and on. And it needs to be spoken about a lot more in our health communities as an ongoing conversation.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. In fact, my half sister that I met later in life, she actually had a stroke in her late 30s and didn't even know. Like, she went to work and part of her face was drooping. She didn't even know anything was happening. And then I know another gal that um she was coming home from a game. She's so athletic, she hiked Kilimanjaro. Like, she's in her 40s, healthy, active, and then suddenly had a stroke. Like, it's just unbelievable. And then I know another gal, you and I both know, Brissa. She was in her 20s,
Yeah.
vital, living life.
That
So,
I think that is the beauty of life. I think there is no linear line
mm,
to escaping anything, and I think that it's how you attack it and how you get through it and how you get to the other end of it that will ultimately define how you made lemonade out of lemons. And um yeah, so many, and the diversity, the age is so different now. It's brought up more in the communities. I mean, there are babies having stroke, there are young children having stroke, younger women and middle-aged women. And it is you think of stroke as an older person's episode episodic event, but it's really anybody's for taking, because that's where the information and the education has to be more at the forefront. And really, I find that I've been kind of chosen to bring that to the forefront in being able, like I said, that I made the full recovery and I have the experience and just the education now over the last 15 years on how to prevent strokes, how to look out for certain risk factors, and just, how to get your life back on track in some kind of manner.
yeah. And so now, in your speaking and with the American Heart Association and your work that you're doing as an advocate, are you mostly helping people who are in recovery, or are you educating, or both? What do you have going on right now?
Right now I am facilitating stroke support groups. Post COVID, we do the groups online via Zoom. We used to do them in person, which is a huge loss of the in-person socialization and just the human touch.
Yeah.
Doing it on Zoom I'll take it because it actually serves the members very well, because in getting to a physical group, it's very difficult sometimes for members to get transportation, transfer from the car to the room. So Zoom has made it very easy for them to just link on and be a part of a group and be part of a socialized group of the community members that they're a part of. And so, I'm doing that, and I do events for the American Heart Association. I just did a event back a couple months ago for Paul George's foundation, and he was honoring, it was a luncheon, and his mom had a stroke, so it's very near and dear to him
Mm.
that he put on a luncheon once a year to give back, because he wanted to shower survivors with his profile and his goodwill to encourage them to keep moving forward. And I just love being a part of all those events. It makes me feel so good that I can contribute and be one of the faces of life after having stroke. And you can have a life. Your life isn't just over, but in recovery, it's sometimes a roller coaster ride.
Yeah. Yeah, I can only imagine. Like just I I love the work you do. I have so much respect for it. And the thing is that your story, it's not specific just to stroke survivors. It really is encouraging for anyone. Because when I read your story, I think, man, like if she can overcome that, if she can like get all the way back to her high heels and now be speaking and being an advocate and like if you can do that, I can overcome things. Like it's an encouraging story. I know that you're getting out speaking more and that you're looking for more speaking engagements. And so I will say if anybody's listening and you have a podcast or you have an event or anything, you know, Dana's story is so powerful. And I know that you're looking to speak at more events. Is that right? You're traveling and speaking more now?
Absolutely. I'm up for any type of podcast, anything that, any platform that I can continue to spread awareness and share my story and my good fortune within my story. And it's funny, I just wanted to piggyback on what you said about sharing my story, and it can relate to anybody going through anything. That was one of the driving forces of sharing my story originally when I made my recovery at the year mark of sharing it with my local newspaper. And I knew I was being very vulnerable and transparent with my story. But then again, it went back to what you just said. If it could help one person going through a divorce or, some type of loss or job searching, something that can help somebody dig themselves out of this hole. If I could do it, you can do it. You just have to have that mindset.
Yes, I love it. And it's such a powerful story. And I do thank you for getting this book done and being willing to share your story. And I have to ask, as a best-selling author, what are some of the new benefits that you've seen from being a best-selling author and getting your book out there?
Well, I just feel so honored that I was able to have it get published finally. And right now it's just simmering. It's so new. And so I'm promoting it by just within my group settings and again, my social media, my website. So I'm working toward climbing to new opportunities with speaking engagements like we just talked about, and continued education on helping other stroke survivors and caregivers as well, because it's um for both. The book is for both. And in my groups, I do have a caregiver group that has been benefited from reading my book.
And so what has the response been to your book inside of those communities? And
Unbelievable. I have had such great feedback from having this book published. And not only just as a story of a happy ending, but that the inspiration, if I could write a book, maybe they could write their story too. And I think there's a lot of people who want to write their story, but they just don't know how to get that one step in movement going forward and how to do it. So there's a lot of different steps that need to be taken, but I was so lucky to have found you, Kathy, to make this happen for me. And I so appreciate you and all that you have helped me with.
Oh, you are so welcome. It is really, truly my pleasure. Like, I'm so lucky. I get to work with the most amazing people, and it's usually word of mouth or somebody knows somebody, and I just end up working with amazing, usually first-time authors like yourself that have a great story to share, and you're just not sure how to write it, how to get it published and get it out there. And now that you have your book in hand and you've had the courage to tell your story, and now you'll be able to do more. And I just see you powerfully speaking on stages and inspiring people around the world. I know that that's what's coming for you. So
Thank you so much. I also, just to say one more thing, I think it builds your confidence in what you are willing and wanting to do and pursue. And I think that was just like an extra added bonus to my vision on where I want to see myself going. So it's endless. So there's possibilities everywhere. So again, that we made that happen is unbelievable. And
I'm
thank you.
so honored to have been a part of it, and I'm just excited for all that you have coming. And how can we keep in touch with you and see what you have coming up? What are the best ways to?
You know what? My social media is I have an Instagram page, Healing and Heals. I have my website, danasrivera.com. And email me if you're seeking out any type of support or events. I would love to help you and join a team.
That's great. Thanks so much. And of course, can we find you on Facebook as well? Because I know I'm connected to you.
Absolute
So
Facebook.
yeah,
Dana
yeah,
Rivera.
yeah. And I think probably do you have most of those links on your website too?
Absolutely.
So danasrivera.com is the easiest way to find her. And then, of course, all the social media. Again, the book is Healing in Heals, a stroke survivor's. Oh, I love it. Isn't that a beautiful cover? A stroke survivor's journey to high heels. It's such a beautiful cover. I love it so much. And little side note about the cover. I can't believe I wanted to mention this sooner. Uh, I loved the picture originally when you sent it to me when we were working on the book, but even better when I found out that your son took the picture.
I was so thrilled he was able to do that for me because it was last minute. And asking your son to do anything at a
Yeah.
last minute option is not always a great thing that happens, but this was wonderful that he got that done for me, and it was so fun doing it,
Isn't
doing the
that
photo
great
shoot.
how stuff just comes together like that? It was just
It was
perfect.
all meant to be. It was all
Yes.
meant to be. And he got credit for taking the photo in the book.
All right. Well, thanks again so much for being here with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. And I look forward to having you back. Maybe in a year, I'll get an update on all the
I would
things
love
you.
that.
Yeah,
Thank you for everything, and I so appreciate it. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you, Kathy.
my absolute pleasure. All right. Take
We'll
care.
talk soon. Bye.